Hello, it's me, Annalisa, with my spiritual friend. I'm back. It's Sunday, September 24th. I was going to say October, but it's not October yet, but soon enough. Hi, Dune. I got you. You're actually AS. I couldn't remember your screen name. Um, so you're AS, just because I was like, well, I can't. I know it's something, and I was thinking Dune, but I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to confuse anybody. So that's you. You're AS. I got you. What's going on? What's new? I'll wait a few minutes to see if some more people show up. Hi, Elaine. Um, I don't know. Have you noticed a lot of scandals are coming out? People are being outed. Hi, Tiffany. If you follow my friend Victoria, she's an astrologer. There's other ones doing it, but she talks a lot about the things that are going on planetary wise. And I think it's through, oh, I can't remember what it was, but like she said, she was just saying that more women are going to start showing up in scandals now too. So being outed for who they are. All right. So if you guys want to get started, we can just do that. I don't have any big stories. Follow me on TikTok. I share a little bit more over there. Um, so are y'all ready? Who's here? Let's see. Tiffany, you're here. You want to go ahead and start? Hi, Ashley. I saw your update. Congratulations. So Ashley got her visa. Congratulations, Ashley. Let's all cheer for her. We know that that was a big spot of anxiety for her. And she might have a date out of it too. um, so there you go. And you'll get the 4-year one. Don't worry. Just you're not going to take him up on it. So, well, it's a nice compliment anyway, right? Hopefully he took no for an answer. Okay. So, Tiffany, would you like to ask your questions? Your dating life is complicated as it is. Oy. Okay. I think I'd like to ask about fertility stuff. Long story short, I was pregnant again this year, and then oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's I am the that is definitely because typically those aren't um the I know this is like not this isn't going to fix the fertility stuff, right? So or fix I don't know why, but have you made sure that your I always go to this stuff. Um have you made sure that your B vitamins are methylated? So like when you're taking folate, that it's L methyl 5 folate or whatever, and not folic acid. But it's methylated, right? It's not the that's what I'm saying. Like it's the methylated kind, not the other kind. So it'll say like when you look at the folate, it'll say L methyl folate or L5 methyl something. It's not folic acid. And I say that because there's I don't know that this is psychic, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Where like something like 60% of the population have this form of you'll be provided folic acid, but I've never been. Okay, so don't take any of the stuff that's not methylated. Is what I feel like. It just feels like, and I know I'm not a doctor, but it just feels like you should be taking the methylated form or the form that's not. There's another kind that's not. It's like there's another one that's folinic acid, and that's okay too. But it feels like you need a form that's not folic acid. Then, and this is like it's something like 60% of the population has this form of this. They call it a mutation, but like at some point, is it really a mutation if 60% of people carry it? Like, isn't it's just a variant of of this MTHFR gene mutation? And there's variants within that mutation. So all I'm saying is you can get it online. You can make sure your prenatal vitamins. No, go about it this way. Tell them to test you for the MTHFR gene mutation. Tell them you want to be tested for it. And you can even, if you have a 23andMe, this is the nurse in me just being like, okay, so on 23andMe, you can take your results and get them. I forget what they call it, but basically where they go through and they look for all of these mutations, and you can send it to like there's a place that does it for like, it's not much, like maybe $40, where they go through and they I forget what it's called, but they'll go through and look at if there's any mutations or anything, and they can specifically look for the MTHFR gene mutation. So if you already have the 23andMe, I always am like, if you don't understand what the 5-methylfolate is, that's concerning, because I just think that's an easy lookup for anybody. If your doctor did it, did they look for, I would ask them specifically, did you test for MTHFR gene mutation or any of those things? The other thing is you can switch it on your own. It's not going to hurt you. It shouldn't. But there's that. That's like the one thing I'm being led to. But I also feel like there's something on your husband's end too. So here's the thing is, when a doctor tests you, sometimes when they have like the mutation that's going on when you're pregnant, they're looking for the big stuff. They're not necessarily going through and looking like a fine-tooth comb. Okay. Was that before you got pregnant? Or right around the time you got pregnant? The other thing is, I feel like your husband should be looking at that too. Like, this is not all on your shoulders. I just want to specifically say that. It's not on all your shoulders right after you got pregnant. Okay. So stay on it. It takes a little bit for your body to convert over and really take it. So if you're starting right after you got pregnant, that means that like maybe that was already there. The other thing is, make sure your husband's doing the same too. Like, make him start on it as well. Because I feel like it's interesting, because I don't feel like it's just a you thing. Like, it's like there's things that you can do to help support it, like a healthier, but it feels like something on his end too. And sometimes when they do the sequencing, it's called sequencing. Sometimes when they do genetic testing, they're not sequencing the entire genome, right? They're not looking at every little thing for every little thing. They're looking for the big stuff. Do you have a marker for X, Y, and Z? It just feels like there's something more there that needs to be looked at. So, and sometimes we have to take things into our own hands. So ways to get around genome sequencing without having to fight with a doctor is like, at Thanksgiving, 23andMe, they always have sales. So you could do that. And then take that. There's another thing, I can't think of what it is, but where you can take that, you can look up genome sequencing, where then you take your results from 23andMe and you get them sequenced, and they'll pop up with a whole bunch of, I mean, if you have something, like it does the entire thing. It's not just a small, like it's not a very specified thing, because sometimes when you go through a doctor, I know functional medicine, a lot of times they don't take insurance, but they're looking for very specific things because that's what they're doing. I do feel like there's some, this is, I don't know if this is with the pregnancy, but it's just what they're looking at with your body health wise. So I want to specifically, I know you're wanting about the fertility, but this is sort of where this might just be a roundabout way. It's something about electrolytes. Like, so I don't know if it's like the forms you're taking it in. So the first thing they're bringing up is sodium, and I heard sodium channel blocker. So I don't know if you're on, sometimes those antidepressants and things are, the way that they work is shifting the sodium channels, or maybe it's for migraines. And I just keep getting like having a little bit of Celtic sea salt every day would be helpful. And then magnesium. I started taking a form of magnesium that seems to be like, I do a topical spray thing, but I also take the Mary Ruth's lipoic, I don't know, something. It's a liquid magnesium calm. And the difference I noticed, I've been taking magnesium for a while and took like pure encapsulations. I just noticed my hair is healthier. So I don't know if it was the magnesium per se, but like just not as dry and frizzy. And that is actually a sign of, believe it or not, if you have a level of magnesium you're supposed to have, it helps with the frizziness in your hair. Hi, Vessel. I'm taking levothyroxine for Hashimoto's and prenatal plus the methylated folate. Okay. So it just looks like looking at your like mineral and salt imbalances. And not like using regular salt. The reason why I say Celtic sea salt is because it has other minerals in it. It's not just like table salt. I'm doing readings. Yep. I know that they tested him, but I still feel like there's something on his end. Hi, Rathka. So, let me, before I mention this, if this is, because I just feel like maybe even also looking at soursop tea. Jen, I have your payment. Oh, you shouldn't do that with pregnancy. So never mind. I'm not going to recommend that. I don't know about. So here's the thing is, I don't feel like it's about what kind of doctor. I feel like it's when you walk in with, like, if you have the 23andMe and the sequencing and it tells you everything, and you walk into your doctor and you're like, look, that's when they're like, oh, and they know, but like it's, and I don't necessarily, here's the thing, I don't necessarily feel like it's the doctor's not smart enough or not. It just feels like I feel like doctors, especially in American medicine, are exhausted and not willing to look at other things because the way our insurance system is set up, the way our medical system is set up, it is set to make money and it's not really set to treat patients. And I'm saying that from having been inside and outside. Do I believe in vaccines? Yes. Do I believe in taking care of yourself? All of that stuff? Yes. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is just that insurance companies are out to make money. They are a money-making business. Hospitals and medical systems are at the top, legitimately a money-making business. The doctors didn't get into it for money-making reasons, right? They got into it because they wanted to help and care for people. So I'm not attacking doctors. And I'm not saying, oh, they're dumb. I'm saying that their hands are tied because of the system. So it feels like if you walked in with these results, they'd be like, oh, I want to retest X, Y, and Z. Like they would have more information, but they're tied because of the way our medical system is. And unfortunately, we do have to take control of our health and we do have to be our own advocates. Also, your B12, like make sure the B12 is also methylated. It should be like methylcobalamin. So in your prenatal vitamin, make sure that those are. If they're not, you don't have to use the prenatal vitamin the doctor gives you. Like full stop. You can buy your own brand of prenatal vitamins. You can make sure that they have kind of like what that's in there, but you're not required to use those. And as long as you're taking one, I never had my doctor prescribe one. I always just took my own. Same thing with my kids' vitamins. They're like, oh, do you want us to write a prescription? I was like, no, I'll just get my own because I didn't necessarily want the brand that they were using. I mean, it just feels like everything's like just walking in with the information, which is like, I shouldn't have to go in and diagnose myself, but I don't feel like you're diagnosing. I just feel like you're giving a bigger picture for them to work from in order to get the care that you need. I do feel like you'll be pregnant again in 6 months. And I do feel a little bit like it'll be a different story. And I feel like part of that is because you're shifting some of the stuff in your body, but understand that like it takes time. Like if you're working on insulin resistance, just because you start to turn around, you're not having the big ups and downs anymore, doesn't mean that your body is like recovered from it. And it's like takes time to recover from that. It takes time to like level up your body to the levels that it needs to have for vitamins and minerals. So okay, Vessel. Okay. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that brand. I'm just saying like look on the back of it and make sure it all says methylated and like the B vitamins are methylated. The other thing that might be beneficial for you, and I don't know that this is about the pregnancies themselves, like about the baby itself, more so about you and your body through pregnancy, is looking at inositol. Do you know if you're estrogen dominant? So your hormonal levels can be within normal limits and yet still be estrogen dominant. It's methylated. Okay, good. So then the folate you're taking, you're estrogen dominant. Okay, so I feel like it would also be really beneficial for you, and you can talk to this about your doctor, but taking inositol, myo, and D-chiro, and it helps support so it's something that a lot of people who have PCOS who are also estrogen dominant, it helps with their blood sugar levels. It just feels like it would be really good for you to start looking into that. Myo and D-chiro and inositol. You can research this and you can bring it to your doctor if you want. Again, I'm not a doctor, but it's just I have like a hyper fixation with medical, all things like medical have since I was a kid. It's probably why I became a nurse. Wanted to become a doctor. Long story, I didn't. Other than I wasn't really like when you don't have anybody around you when you're growing up and they're like, you can't do that, like, and they don't really believe in you and support you, it's really hard for you to find that. So uh, anyway, it's just it's beneficial for people who are progesterone dominant. I mean, estrogen dominant. You do have PCOS. Okay. Look at MyoD Chiro. There's tons of studies on it. And the dosing for the studies is like 2,000 milligrams in the morning and 2,000 at night. There's even like one that's like, I don't, when you go on Amazon, it's like it's Pregnitol or something like that. And you just want to make sure that I think it's like a 40-to-1 ratio. So I think it's like Myo is the 40 and D-Chiro is the 1, I think. I might be mixing that part up, but it's a 40-to-1 ratio. And it's typically like a 4,000 milligrams a day as a standard dosing. That's what they've used in studies. You can talk to your doctor about it. I am not diagnosing you, I'm just educating. But what it does is it helps stabilize. It's a type of sugar, but it helps stabilize a lot of your other blood sugar and things that can go off when you are estrogen dominant. Also, broccoli is your friend. Broccoli, cruciferous vegetables, but broccoli is high in DIM, especially broccoli sprouts. Broccoli sprouts are really high in DIM, which will help with helping you with PMS and balancing the estrogen overload that you get towards the end of your cycle. FYI. But I do feel like you'll be pregnant again in 6 months. And I genuinely believe that there's something on your husband's end too that's like needs to be shifted, like in his diet. Like he needs to be looking at like lining up his healthy stuff too. Like eating really well, exercising, getting enough sleep. Sleep is imperative. Even, and this might be a terrible thing to say, cutting out caffeine to support that. So again, it's not, I don't feel like it's like, oh, you're doing something wrong or there's something wrong with you or you're broken. It's just like they're sort of talking about supporting it in the best way possible on both of your ends. And it's like it's a team initiative, not just a you and you bear the burden. Also, broccoli should be cooked, not raw. I don't remember why, but there's something about that. So steam it, bake it, whatever. I would not recommend frying it, but it tastes good that way too. Okay. I just want to look something up because I can't remember if I just want to look up the if it's considered a neural tube defect. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I feel like I'm going with this one. Okay. So that's why it's like, I'm like, he needs to be taking the folate too. And I actually feel like the methylated folate, are you taking, I keep getting 15 milligrams, like a higher dose of it. Again, I'm not a doctor. These are all things that make sure it's safe for you, blah, 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 blah. But we visited genetic council and they said it doesn't seem to be a neural tube defect. Okay. I'm just looking at that. I'm not saying the geneticist, but what I just read said it's associated with it. So, okay, bump it up a little bit. I have some gummies that are dosed at 15 milligrams. So not like the, if you're just checking in, it's folate, not weed. Um, I'm happy to be wrong about this. Everything's kind of pulling me into like that's and like everything like I think because of my knowledge base and my intuition right now feels like there's something related to that. So I just feel like also with the eating like the inositol and then also eating for insulin resistance for you would be really good. Um, Not because I think that you're pre-diabetic, but I think that you might lean towards being have gestational diabetes further into the pregnancy. I'm happy to be wrong. It certainly will not hurt you to eat for insulin resistance, which means making sure you have a lot of fiber in your diet, making sure that it's not about cutting out carbs completely. I don't believe in that at all. In fact, I don't even count carbs anymore. I just, because I'm doing all the other things that I'm doing, I don't have a desire for all the carby foods that I did before. So, um, I don't know. So good protein, lean protein, and lots of fiber. And again, I'm not a doctor, but I just quick Googled. The Google says, just kidding. All right, let me see. Oh, maybe it's sorry. I read it wrong. It says it's associated with it, but it's not necessarily. So obviously your geneticist knows. Um, but it still feels like, look, I will tell you that the reason why I figured out MTHFR gene mutation with myself is because of the way I went through my pregnancies. I was very, very sick all the time, like very sick, um, for an extended period of time. Still, like into my 6th month of pregnancy, throwing up like 6 times a day. Um, my middle daughter has weakened tooth enamel, and I looked it up because the dentist was like, I don't know why we're saying this. And it turns out that weakened tooth enamel because can be from a lack of folate. Well, where would she have gotten that if her teeth are developed in her body from me if I wasn't getting enough folate? Even though I was taking vitamins, why wouldn't I have been getting enough folate? Probably because I wasn't able to methylate it. So I feel like in 6 months you will be pregnant again, and I feel like it'll be easier. Um, I am very hesitant. I have to be honest. And I think this is not my psychic side. This is my ego side being like, I don't want to say which way it's going because honestly, like, I do feel like you'll have a baby. I just feel like it's on both sides that things need to kind of shift. They do want to focus a little bit on like making sure he's like on his end. Like we as women put so much like pressure on ourselves, like because we are the ones that carry the baby, but their body being in shape leading up, not like I'm not talking about physically fit, right? I'm talking about metabolically balanced, and all of that is just as important. They're half the DNA, you know what I mean? But yeah, I just feel like I keep feeling like 6 months is where you're gonna get pregnant again. And I'm sorry again about your loss. Did you have another question? Because I think I had you down for two. And I'll look at the payments now. Wait a second. Vessel of Yahweh, I told you 2 years ago that there was something wrong with your left fallopian tube, and it turns out it was, or I told you that it was blocked, and then I need more details. More details. So I told you it was blocked specifically. Was it blocked, or what was the problem? And you had it removed? Obviously, I wasn't the one. I don't know, whatever. That's crazy. That's crazy. Thank you for that validation. So you knew, I told you about it 2 years ago, and then did it just come up as an issue? I told you it was blocked, and I didn't find out until surgery it was blocked. Stop it. That's bananas. Y'all, it's magic. That's incredible. Well, I mean, it's not incredible. I hope you're well. I hope the surgery went well. But also, you know what I mean? Like, whenever people validate things like that, because I'm like, how would I know that? Yeah, let me just add the extra couple names really quick, and then I'm going to say the initials because I don't know if anybody wants their name on here, just to be good. I'm glad it went well. So you said you paid for a reading. What are your initials? Is it KM? Are those your initials? Yes, perfect. Okay, I've got you. I'm going to put you in. You're next after Jen. Rathka, you're next after that, and then Gia. Okay. Okay, she goes along with everybody wants, and she seems to have lost her identity. Okay, so I get 7 years and 15 years. I don't think they'll be together forever. So I don't know if they're at the 7th year right now. And I also feel like saying, and I know this is like weird, but thank you for noticing that in her. Because so many times, and noticing that in him, because so many times people jump on the train of the perpetrator, the person who is narcissistic. They've been married 10 plus years. Okay. Something happened at 7 years. So maybe that's where she started to kind of go in. I feel like at 15 years is where she's going to, like, something, the dam's going to break kind of thing, where she's going to just have enough. I feel like she's starting to get that a little bit, right? To find a little bit of fire within her, but she's also moving very stealthily, right? So she's quietly learning behind the scenes, and understanding that with him, knowing that it's easier to move quietly and be like, do whatever he wants. But I feel like she's gaining wisdom and knowledge. And I feel like the 15-year mark is probably right around where she'll leave him. It's weird because I keep asking on your part, would it be best for you to kind of let her know, and I genuinely feel like it has to be done more energetically, and then support her when she's ready to go, like when she's stepped out. And I don't know why. I almost feel like, or if you do it, it has to be quietly, because I feel like if he knows, he'll make it worse for her. when you learn that there's no point in sharing your voice because it's going to be it's almost like, sorry, screaming in an empty dark room that no one can hear from, a soundproof room, you start to get quiet. And there is part of her that feels like it's her fault, or if she could have, like, that's where it started, like, well, maybe if I just do this, if I do that, like, and then it's like feeling very alone, like you don't think, you don't think other people see this in that person, like she thinks nobody sees him like that, everybody thinks he's wonderful, and you feel like um, you have no idea what kind of stories he's telling other people. um, it feels like if there's a way for you to support her, but do it sort of quietly so he doesn't know, that's really important for her to not feel alone in seeing it. Just that kind of like I see you thing. I feel like they'll be okay um, once she leaves, and it does feel around the 15-year mark. Um, but it'll take time for them to see him exactly for who he is. I feel like the niece around, like, I feel like 16 is seeming important, 16 to 17. Um, he's going to be a little bit older when he sort of gets it and sees it. Um, I don't know if she'll share it. I feel like he'll get suspicious because he's very paranoid. And my fear is if he thinks that you're really close with her, that he'll isolate her more in some way. So maybe it's just spending time and talking with her on a family thing, but not like about, hi Lexi, anything too, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels like there's a way to do it without tipping him off. She has no more friends, and he's guilty into staying home all the time with no separate life from his. Yep, he doesn't have friends and doesn't care about that. Um, he. It's not that he doesn't care about it. It's just that people don't like him, and he's been called out and one too many times on his manipulation, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like over the next like year and a half, she's really going to start seeing what manipulation looks like and seeing the signs. Like, it's pretty interesting when you've been emotionally manipulated, when you start to see it and you're like, oh, that's what that is. That wasn't me. Um, the feeling it is like, it's just like if you're hanging out, spend time with her, invest in her, But it feels like don't tip off like you're so close with her because he'll turn things like, oh, you can't hang out with my sister anymore because she'll put things in your head. She'll make you he'll make you the monster. And maybe not about pointing out about like, oh, that's how you treat her. It's like, oh, that's strange. You know, my husband doesn't do that kind of thing. Like, oh, we don't have that kind of a relationship. Maybe not even like that, because that feels like it's so tricky when somebody's in this situation because of the way narcissists are. You know, he'll play the victim, like, oh, my sister's so terrible, she's manipulating things, like, oh, you should have seen her. I just feel like he's going to come up with all kinds of stories, and it's really to like unsettle her ability to trust anything. But I feel like she's finding that within herself. So maybe it's calling him out for the behavior in front of her. I don't know. Honestly, it just feels like whatever you do, it feels like very like make sure you're kind to her. You can even be like, hey, how's it going? I was just calling to check on you and see how you're doing, that kind of thing. It feels like anything too in there tips him off and then he'll separate her even more. It feels like it has to be casual. What a jerk. I mean, there's better words for it, but I'm trying to be YouTube friendly since I'm not usually YouTube friendly. Please like, by the way. Yeah. Or maybe like, oh, I learned the other day, I was reading this article or I'm following this thing and I learned this thing the other day where it's like not really about him, but maybe it just tips a light bulb off. That's a good idea, Allie. I just feel like I keep getting this like, be very careful. I don't think he's physically abusive with her. It just feels like he's very emotionally manipulative. If I could tell you guys stories, I would. Okay. All right, Allie, do you want to ask your question? I hope that's okay. I hope that's enough. Allie, what's your question? You're welcome, Tiffany. And again, I'm really sorry about your loss. Um, I think you may have met them once, but it feels like it was so like just quick that you didn't give much thought to it. So it still feels like you may have met them, but they're kind of still kind of outside of your immediate. And I'm telling you, whenever I say that, I always think of that woman on the airplane. I'm telling you that is not real. Sorry. I don't know if it's school or work because even with your workplace, I still feel like it's pretty friendly. Like it still feels very like friends kind of thing. So I don't know. I only do PayPal just because I'm trying to make it. I mean, it's just better for my business, like for my doing my bookkeeping and all of that stuff. I know there's like other people, other readers who'll be like, "Oh, Cash App, blah blah blah." Like, I claim everything on my taxes. I'm an LLC. I don't claim everything. I'm very, I have an uncle who's a tax attorney. So he used to work for the IRS. Like I really, I'm like very by the book for everything. So to make my bookkeeping easier, I do everything on PayPal. Plus, Venmo and Cash App and all those other things, they don't really serve you as a customer, meaning you have to deal with it if you lose the money or if somebody's not operating in an upstanding way. PayPal takes care of you too. So that's why I do it that way. That's it. That's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay. Sorry. So what's your other question? So I do feel like you've met him. It feels like passing, like, oh, hey, what's up? And then like nothing more than that. They're no one of my good friends in one of my team group in school. I don't know that it's a group. Literally, it literally feels like, oh, this is my friend so and so, and then he walks away. Like it doesn't feel like I spent any significant time. It's literally like, oh, hey, what's up? And then like there's not. That's what I'm saying. Like it was so quick, you didn't even pay much attention to it. I'm telling you, quit trying to solve who it is, and not because. Like whatever, you can pay me all day long, but I'm telling you, you're welcome, Elaine. Quit trying to solve who it is because it's still, then it's like, who is it? Where is it? Like adopt the idea of the universe is always working in my favor. Everything always turns out in my favor. I'm not worried about it because he's coming my way. Like I've got more important shit to do than pay attention to that man. And when he's here, like it'll show up. When we try and mess with the 3D and make things happen quicker, that, well, if I know he is, then I can go, we mess things up. And I'm saying that like, if I know that my purpose is X, Y, and Z, and I'm trying to force that to happen, I'm messing up the order of things. Like, what if you're messing up the chance for like the most romantic meet cute ever? And you're like, because I know who it is. Who is it? Where is he? I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to mock you. So sorry if that came out as a mocky bitchy thing. That's not what I meant. But like, and I'm saying this with all the love in the world. I got readings all the time when I was single. Like, oh, where is he? When's it? And I'm telling you, from someone who's on the other end of that, been married 14 years now plus, like, just have fun. Like, focus on filling up your desires and your needs. It doesn't mean like, oh, if I'm focusing on me, then they won't. It's like they'll come in. They're going to be there. I promise. Like, just fucking squeeze the fun out of it. And just focus on yourself. Because when we focus and put so much focus on when's this other person, you tend to do that in your relationships. Stop doing that. Like, it's okay to put you first, and that doesn't make you selfish or narcissistic or any of these other terms that we hear flying around. Though I do believe narcissists exist, and there's a lot more of them than are diagnosed. Because, hello, our society breeds them. Patriarchy breeds them. Trauma breeds them. Terrible boomer parenting breeds them. Okay, what's your other question? I think, okay, let me put it this way. I've never once looked back and thought, I'm so glad I worried about that so much. So glad I spent hours worrying about, and you can name a million different things. if the job was going to come, if we were going to find a house, blah, 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 blah. Like I've never once thought, I've never looked back and thought, I'm so grateful. I've wasted so much time in fear and worry. It's if my guides could tell me as to why I find it hard to get close to people. I'm not sure if I'm disinterested or I feel like I'm uninterested sometimes. I feel I have nothing good to share. I'm sure what's wrong. It's also about dopamine hits. So I don't know if you're ADHD, but it just feels like it's not enough of a dopamine hit for you with those people. So it's okay. They say that you tend to get really interested in someone that's like not very nice to you because it creates like a dopamine drive in you. And the people that are safe actually feel like uninteresting and boring. Um, so I also want you to change that narrative where you said, I'm uninteresting sometimes. Let's look at this for Ellie. We're all uninteresting sometimes. Nobody can be interesting all the time. That's exhausting. Like we're all allowed to be just like the quiet person who doesn't need to be the center of attention or, the full of the, like I get to be front center here. But do you think like, man, just like I walk away from this and I'm like, I know I'm going to be uninteresting. And that's okay. That's normal. So take that out of your bag of ways to describe yourself because that just seems like you're describing everybody and you don't get to describe yourself that way. We're going to only like you can realistically look at yourself and see yourself as having areas of growth and improvement that can be made without being a jerk to yourself. What if, look, the reason why I got into manifesting and looking at law of assumption was not because I wanted to heal myself. I was like, I want some opportunities to come into my life. I want these things. I want things to not be so hard. But what ended up happening was when I went down the rabbit hole of all the different ways to manifest and learning about law of assumption and self-concept, working on my self-concept, instead of bringing in all of these opportunities, it gave me the opportunity to like myself, to recognize that I'm good enough just as I am. Has it brought in everything yet? No. But also because I am like more centered and at peace within myself, it's okay too. It's also brought some upheaval, meaning the healing and looking within and fixing all of that has allowed me to go, oh, that's kind of messed up that I've tolerated that kind of behavior for so long. Kind of messed up that I allowed that behavior to shift a belief system within myself to think that I wasn't good enough or worthy enough, or the world will see me and see this horrible person because that's what I've been told my whole life. So when I say to you, all of you, work on your self concept, it doesn't mean it's going to fix everything out here, but it is going to bring some peace within here. Our problem as a society is, and you can look this up, like I've been listening to blurbs my whole life about marketing and like why do businesses market towards women? Because women are the main buyers of the household. They are the main purchase deciders of the household. So why do you think we get screwed up marketing about and marketing is always like when you look at inventions, it's like find an invention, find something that people need to solve a problem. But the problem is a lot of corporations are finding problems and telling you they need to be solved even though they're not really problems. Like the food pyramid. Because they're trying to uphold their own capitalistic greed. Like cellulite. Hello, that's a normal thing. We don't need to fix or heal that. That's normal. They don't want to tell you about the things that are like inexpensive and can heal things. That won't make them money. Okay, I'll find you. So it feels like the ones that you're attracted to and you feel is like there's a dopamine hit because it's sort of unhealthy and unnatural. And it doesn't feel like there's anything wrong with you. You're not uninteresting. Um, give yourself a pass. The one big thing that I've been doing lately in my shadow work is looking at. I've got your payment, by the way. Is looking at um, like where I carry shame and why do I carry shame around that and what's the story around that and is that even like why are we placing a moral sense of superiority on people who are able to do that and you're not kind of thing or me. Okay, uh I'll check it. I'll check it. I can't tell if people are cool with me or not if we're really friends. How about if you adopt the idea that they just are? They just are, they're fine with me. It's fine with me. Like you're not going to be best friends with everybody and yeah, they're fine with me. Most people are more worried about what's going on in their own insecurities than they are even about like what's going on with you. I went to a circle. Maybe this is important to share. So I went to a circle for a baby blessing on Friday night for a woman. It was a group of women that I circled with for a long time and for like about a year. And then I quit after a really bad in-person experience where I was like, these aren't my people. um there's as much as like a lot of these circles and groups will say like women empowering women and we celebrate all women and we like and your individuality and show up as you are, but like I would always get kind of like that, but not like that. Be a little less, don't say so much. I even had a woman give me a tarot reading who pulled out a card and was like, don't say everything that's on your mind. And I'm like, I know that that's not what that card means. I didn't say that to her, but I was like, bitch, I know what that card means, and that's not what that means. You're just being a bitch and passive aggressive. So I went to this circle because I like the woman who's pregnant. She's very, very nice. And I was like, I'm going to show up amongst some of these people that I really don't like. And I was sort of like, I saw them and I was like, hmm. Um, so as soon as I ended up giving a reading because I was like, well, I know we're supposed to give a blessing, but this is kind of what I felt like I should share when I came in with about, having a multiple, like it's not your first baby, it's your second baby. And you worry about all of the fear that comes in with like, is this child going to know that they're loved? And like, do I have a big enough heart for all of them and all that? And then like when we did this, like she had us close our eyes and do like the person who was leading it, do a quick little I don't know, whatever. But I felt the baby come in, the energy and telling me stories. And so I was like, I'm going to just share this with you. I know this isn't really how it's done, but I'm going to just do my thing. And then, like, immediately when I was done, I look and I can see because it's on Zoom, but then she had some people in private. A couple of the people, like, I can tell they're typing to each other. You can watch their faces and see their little micro things. And growing up in trauma, you know how to read people pretty well, even when people tell you, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. So you just see the little cattiness and bitchiness. So all I'm going to say is like, don't worry about if people like you or receive you or not. You'll find your people, and maybe your people is just a couple people, and that's okay. Hi, KK. Right? So um, I don't feel like people don't receive you well. I feel like that's some of your insecurities, genuinely. I feel like more than often than not, there's one girl who I feel like when you're a little extra like goofy, kind of off the wall. But like at the same time, when you start to do the self concept, you're like, why would you even care about yucking my yum? Like, why is that so important to you for me to fit into something so that you feel comfortable? You're not meant to fit into everybody's, like, this could sound really dirty, but I was gonna say everybody's box, but you don't want to fit in already. You know what I'm saying? But like, you're not meant to fit into the container that somebody else decides is acceptable. Just be in your own. And some people are going to be like, that's a really pretty thing that you're over there. And some people are going to be like, yeah, that's not really for me. And that's okay. That doesn't say that you're terrible or broken or anything's wrong with you. But I feel like there's one girl who feels like she's not really, that's more about her. And honestly, like, why would you, I don't know, Taylor Swift says, like, why would you Why would you talk bad about somebody who's obviously having a lot of fun? Like, why would you think that that's terrible? Hi, McKeegan. It's not you though. So, but I do feel like really digging into the self-concept work. I listened to some great podcasts by Mel Robbins, and it had to do with like organizing and cleaning. Because I'm like, I want to be highly organized because I have this thought in my head about what organized means, what having a really tidy house means, all of that things that those beliefs were sold as women and being a homemaker. Um, um, and it was sort of like, why is that person morally superior? It was sort of like removing the shame from it. I was like, yeah, why the hell am I so hard on myself? Like, whatever. I didn't sign up to be like, have everybody shit clean all the time. I signed up so that they have clean clothes and like all that kind of stuff. So don't be confused with them. Just like literally just walk in and be like, people like me. Start telling yourself that story. People like me. I'm good. It's fine. Like, I'm having a good time. And if you're not having a good time with those people, they're not your people. All right, we got to move on because I'm an hour in and I've answered 2 people's questions. Okay, Lois, you asked about, I'm going to read your text really quick. I don't know if you're here, Lois. Are you here? And please send your friend a thank you, by the way. I have someone staying in my apartment in New York City who has proven to be extremely challenging. We were supposed to be roommates while I was in and out of New York. She has agreed to move out, but has a lawyer claiming I am harassing her gently and firmly. And while I think she will go, I wanted insight into the situation. I know this tied into my discernment, boundaries, and most importantly, abundance. I also feel like she has some mental health issues. Like that was immediate. So it feels like even when you're saying harassing, I really feel like she's actually making things up. Um, are you here, Lois? So the thing that I feel around this is that I feel like I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, like if it's how it's going to turn out. I feel like she's like I immediately got a picture of my one sister in my head who is um, very unwell, mentally speaking, and it's a lot. Um, I don't feel like as much as that lawyer is like writing off letters and stuff like that. I feel like that's going to fizzle and not hold weight. But I also feel like you conceding in something just to get her out of your life. Like, so maybe it feels like conceding monetarily, really and truly, to just to get her out. And then, sound sucks, but like just learning from it, like really learning about when you're like, oh, I think I'm learning about my boundaries and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, and sort of like this is like the last straw of like learning to see red flags and also learning when we say discernment, really learning like not to always give everybody the benefit of the doubt because you see how it would benefit you. To really sort of vet people and trust your own intuition more when it comes to other people. Um, you are highly intuitive and good at what you do. But what we tend to do is when it comes to personal things, we tend to ignore and be like, because we are able, when we're highly intuitive, we are able to see like the good side of people, but we tend to ignore the red flags. But it does feel like, um, oh, she's not on the call. Okay. So it does feel like, thank you for the recommendation. It does tell her, it does feel like there's going to have to be some concession on her part where I keep getting $1,000 and I don't know why I'm showed that. So I don't know what it is, but it's like somehow giving her $1,000. So maybe it's like, here's this part back here, but it feels like to get her out. I don't feel like there was a formal agreement within the like a lease or a written agreement. So it feels like there's not a lot of wait for the argument. And she has no proof of harassment. So it feels like she's just got somebody she's got to fire off a letter. And so I don't know if she can validate any of that. I could go further with this, but she's not here for me to help with that. So it's like, and maybe she can't be live on the call because of her situation. I don't know. But I do sense, I don't know, can you validate any of that, Jennifer? I know it was just August, but it feels like August feels important. And I feel like probably by November 1, she's out. I'm going to open a seltzer, so sorry that annoys you. I have 3 drinks going here today. It just feels like whatever the attorney thing is, it fizzles out because it turns out like they don't have anything. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not like schizoaffective or bipolar. Okay. So I'm going to say this just even from personal, like where it's like, I should be able to, like, I have enough intuition. I should have seen this coming, but like we have our own stories, like our own stuff that we have to work through in our own, like belief systems about ourselves, like kind of carried away. So we, like, even though we can see stuff clear for other people, sometimes doing this work, we have a really hard time, um, a really hard time, because we have our own stuff we have to work through, right? When it's our own personal stuff. So sometimes we're like, oh, I can see that. But I feel like also there's that thing that happens where you're all of a sudden like, this is the thing that had to happen in my life to make me draw a line and like see the red flags everywhere and be like, oh, not tolerating that. Like I had an experience at Whole Foods last week, where I was looking for stinging nettle in a tincture form instead of in tea because it's supposed to be really good for hay fever. And so I wanted to give my kids another option because a lot of the allergy medications don't really work. And my kids have bad hay fever and they also have grass pollen issues. And it worked for me drinking the tea, but they're not going to drink the tea. And I know they're not going to drink the tea. So I go there and they don't have it. And I start talking to the older guy because I know he's been there a long time. And there's no reason to work there. Well, I mean, I don't know. I know, whatever. I know he's very knowledgeable. So he was sharing a lot of information with me. And then I mentioned to him, like, oh, I like got the folate thing figured out and like it changed everything. He's like, that's not what did it. Like he shut me down right away. And I was like, he's like, well, how much are you taking that up? And I was like, this thing is real. 60% of people have this. And he's like, oh, he's like, and I was like, oh, no, this is part of this. And he's like, yeah. Once I like, kind of like said like, oh no, this is part of this, is like, it's like, really, he's like, you don't have to get argumentative. And I was like, now years ago, I would have thought like, oh, I guess I'm the problem. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, listen, dude, I sat here and listened to you. I love learning. I'm happy to listen to what you're saying, but I actually do know some things. and what I recognized was, as a grown-up me who's done some healing work, like people will automatically shut you down and be like, you don't have to be argumentative when they feel challenged and they are insecure. So I just feel like, I don't know why I'm telling you the story. Oh, it took that event and like some other stuff to make me like be able to stand on my own and like see like how patriarchy works and how all this other stuff works. But it just feels like this is going to be a pivotal moment for her to understand and really learn to set those boundaries. And that doesn't make her mean or terrible or unspiritual or all of that other stuff that we get told as women and as spiritual workers. And so maybe it was a godsend for a point, but like it also is helping heal her in other ways. So maybe she put out there like, I want to learn how to set really good boundaries, and the universe is like, here's your lesson. Which is Awesome. Okay, moving on. Dune, what's your question? And thank you for kind of giving me some guidance there. I'm sorry. I know it's so late there for you, Dune. Thank you for your patience. And same thing with you, Rothka. Would anybody be terribly upset if I bumped Rothka up to after Dune since they're in other time zones? They're like 6 hours ahead of me, which means it's 11 o'clock at night there for them. And then I'm going to look at this last PayPal that came in and see where you're at. I've got two questions for you, Ashvir. Okay, you're good in the time zone. Okay. Oops, I missed the H. I mean the S. There we go. You're welcome, Jennifer. Please tell Lois, is she okay? All right, and is everybody okay if I throw Rothka in after June? Okay. Sorry, I saw your question. Okay, what positive things what positive things are coming towards you for the rest of the year? Hi, Allie. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so positive things are coming towards you. I'm just trying to figure out what they're showing me because it makes no sense. And there could be a cultural issue that I like. There might be something that's more common there that I don't understand. Because I'm seeing the ocean and I'm hearing there's like a wooden instrument that has like where you could take a little stick and rub over it and it's like makes it makes it like a quick little vibrational sound. I don't know what else to say because I can't physically make that sound. I keep hearing that like over and over, and then I'm seeing like all these like things of wood, but I'm seeing the ocean, and I literally have no clue what that means. Um, and it feels like a cooler climate, like like Cape Cod area would be. So it feels like it's cooler. It's not. I'm not there in the summertime. Um, this is metaphorical. So I see the sharks circling, right? And I see them, but I feel like I have a really nice barrier and I'm able to see the things that are coming. So it doesn't feel like it's not a shock, it's not a threat. It's just like, oh yeah, I can see that. Like it's obvious. It feels more like a matter of fact observation. And I feel like I have no emotional response to it. Like meaning I'm not diving into the like the fear of it or the worry of it or the what could it mean. It's like, oh yeah, I see that. Like I see it for what it is. Um, but I still feel like you're focusing on doing your own thing and building up your own thing. Um, did you write a book and put it on Amazon for sale? Because that's coming up. I'm asking as a question. You could think my eyes are closed, so I'm not looking to whatever. I am very aware of people going cold reading, but like I can't see you, I can't, whatever. That's part of the reason I do this, but also because I can see pictures better. But so the feeling I get is like the sales are finally starting to pick up a little bit. Um, they're not where you dream them to be, but it feels like an appreciation and awareness that they're starting to have some sales there. So I think like the real positive stuff that comes out of this is more from a mental clarity state and a feeling a sense of peace within. It's not so much where it's like you win the lottery, you buy a house. It's like it's literally like a within thing where you're like, oh look, I don't feel like I am being blindsided by people like that anymore because I see it. I see where they are. I'm able to read people better. Um, and then it's like there's a little bit of financial like coming in. You're seeing to start to see some of the like the movement there, and it's an appreciation for that. But it's not so much like I think it's really better. Maybe that's my own personal thing. Is like when I've had the personal inner growth, I'm always like, I just feel better. I feel more sense of peace and calm. And that's like a huge gift, right? I don't know if this is also, could be a cultural thing, like a saying, but it's like the fish are coming in is the feeling I get. Okay, so that maybe that's what the book thing is like. Maybe it's like for whatever reason by the end of the year it starts to pick up a little bit. You I have to be honest with you. You can't just put a product on Amazon and be like it's going to sell. It feels like needing to talk about it and tell people about it and put it out there and advertise it. Um, you don't well, as I say, you don't get New York Times bestsellers without properly marketing it. But you do because you get the people who buy their own, who are really rich and buy their own, and then they have like in storage. I didn't say that, but I said that. So it just feels like there's an inner knowing, and like so because I'm looking at by the end of December, like what's coming in. That's just a couple months. Um, it feels like I'm starting to get movement and appreciation. So there are ways to market without using your face, right? Go on, if you go on TikTok, people will market stuff without using their face. Does a face help? Sure, because it makes you relatable. It's like, oh, this is, but given the sensitive subject, I understand that. You can alter your voice and just talk about these were my experiences. I'm marketing under, you can even say, I'm marketing under, this name. It's not my given name because it's so personal. And you can be honest that way and create a connection with people without all that. Um, Again, it's like it feels more of a pickup in the springtime. And I know this feels like a long time, but it's like you have to keep putting in the work. It's not something where like, oh, I put it up there now, it's magical. It's literally like you need to market it, right? So create a Pinterest that brings traffic to it. Um, Put it on TikTok shop. Go on TikTok, have a second account just for that. Try other ways. Like there's TikTok shop has a thing now, it'll bring people right to your, like it'll sell straight from there. It will get you more stuff when you can, like as you get more people, you can link your website. There's all kinds of things, but it's like you sort of have to put the work in. And then also it feels like market the things that people need, not what you want to sell or people like. It what, $500? I'm not talking about, listen to me. You can market, you don't have to pay for ads on TikTok. You have to be present. They require $500 like for TikTok shop. I haven't looked into it. But you can just go on there and once you get, don't do the ads. I'm not talking about ads. I'm just talking about creating. First of all, they're trying to build TikTok shop right now, so it's a good time to get in. I may be doing it. But it just feels like, so it feels like the only stagnancy is like really you pushing it. I have to say, I don't see it huge blowing up, but no, really, nobody's stuff has ever blown up overnight. Like we have this perception like, oh, I just saw them and I got a million, but it feels like nobody really blows up overnight. And if you blow up overnight, you have to make sure that you can expand it to to support that business. There's nothing wrong with slow growth. So it does feel like by the end of the year, I start to see a little bit of growth. It's not what you imagined or envisioned, but it has to start somewhere. And it feels like it's a sense of appreciation for it, if that makes sense. In the long run, I feel like it'll be a good steady thing. In the long run, though, I feel like you have multiple sources of income. It's not just though, You're welcome. I'm throwing Rothka in first just because she is 6 hours ahead, and I hope everybody understands that. So, Rothka, what's your question? And then I forgot to add on Alicia, Ali, but I'll throw. I have you. I have your payment. Let me just throw that in so you don't worry. My little brother, he's been experiencing terrible allergies, autoimmune response. They gave away their pet rabbit. Symptoms went away for a bit, then returned in force. Remember I was just talking about stinging nettle tea? Maybe you were just supposed to listen today. Okay. I don't feel like it's not fixable. It feels like it's like over time. So start with one thing at a time. So I don't want to say like go full crazy and do all of these things, but it's like start with one thing at a time. If I would start with one thing, it would be start adding in like, I feel like dairy is an issue for him. Adding in stinging nettle tea to his daily routine, 1 or 2 cups a day. And you can buy a huge bag of it for fairly inexpensive and just steep it, but you don't want to steep them for a really long time, like maybe 2 minutes, because it's very bitter if you don't. I feel like he should be having that in the morning and at night. Soursop tea is really, really good. And it's a very mild tea. And dandelion root is really good too for like clearing out liver and kidneys and things like that. Looking at healing his gut, L-glutamine is really good. But I feel like if you just if you're going to start with one thing, it would be stinging nettle tea. I do feel like he has an issue with dust. And there may be moisture in his house, like a mold moisture. If they can't fix it or they can't figure out what it is, it may need to get like an air purifier and a dehumidifier. But it doesn't feel like, and then I just like really, I don't want to be like, oh, don't eat this ever again. Okay. So do the stinging nettle tea. They've come out with like I knew about this like years ago, but it's been a bigger deal lately where they've talked about like, oh, they're taking phenylephrine off of the market or out of the shelves. It's like, well, they've known forever that hasn't worked. It's why I always went behind the counter and went to the pharmacy and gave them my ID to get Sudafed, and they'd always be like, "Oh, well, that's right." I was like, "No, no, no. I want the stuff that works." And literally, when I said that, the pharmacist was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I'm not dumb. Hi, Crystal. Um, Diet. So it's like I also feel like there's an issue with wheat. So it's like when we eat things that cause a lot of inflammation, it makes it harder for your body to like fight stuff off and like not see everything as an attack, right? But I don't feel like it's like, oh, he's broken and this is forever. Um, so it's like it feels like try the simple fixes, but I do feel like stinging nettle would help him. Thanks, KK. I have to tell you, I don't know that it's the rabbit that was the issue. So much so it was the type of hay they were using. And I say that because immediately I was like, oh, so when we got our bunny, I was really worried because I didn't get everybody tested for the bunny. And my husband had bunny allergies to his bunny growing up. He had all these shots. And we started with Timothy hay, and I switched her almost immediately over to meadow grass hay because my one daughter couldn't even be in the room around it. Like you didn't have to be around the hay was an issue, and which makes sense because whenever we go to like the zoo and the barns, I walk out feeling terrible because of Timothy hay issues. So we switched that, and it was fine. And I feel like that actually might have been the problem, and not the bunny. Um, um, they did try switching the hay. Um, and like even then with like they always recommend like doing pine pellets for like as one of the types of litter for bunnies. And my bunny was allergic to the pine pellets, so I had to go to paper pellets for her. She was sneezing all the time with that. So start with the stinging nettle tea. I feel like that kind of calms things down, and dandelion root tea and some soursop. It feels like going with teas and then like really looking at his diet and going into like I don't want to call it an anti-inflammatory diet, but it's like skip the dairy, skip the coffee. Um, because sometimes people when people have a gluten issue, they actually have an issue with coffee too. So it's like skip the coffee and just eat really like eat as much unprocessed foods as possible. Like granted a lot of food is processed, right? But it's like the whole foods. Like you can get technically frozen vegetables are processed, right? But I'm just saying, like the stuff where it has so many ingredients and you don't like it's all put together for you. Make just a lot of home cooking and things would be better for him. Um, it also feels like so when we get COVID, it knocks out our immune system, and so that sort of like brings up room for things like if you had a past um, Epstein Barr virus, mono, the kissing virus, right? If you had an experience with that, or if you had HPV, like there's all these things can be brought up. And also, it just feels like his pattern of eating needs to change a little bit too. So like maybe he's like, oh, I eat 4 to 6 small meals a day. It's like, no, just eat like 2 or 3 big meals a day, and you'll feel satiated. Make sure it has a lot of fiber in it, and B, your insulin levels have a chance to actually like kind of level out. Crystal, I'm not on every day. I'm only on Sundays here. I'm on TikTok. Um, and I'm gonna start trying to do. I was gonna try and incorporate more readings now that my kids are thing. But every Sunday I'm here, and I do private readings too, so you can catch me there. Um, I'm gonna say this. That's not great. I don't know who does that. Like, there's no way you can sit down and eat enough calories in one meal a day in order just to nourish your body. If you go to my website, Crystal, it's myspiritualfriend.com. There's a section there for, and it's linked below in the description here. You can purchase a reading there. So I just start with a stinging nettle. It feels like that helps clear things up a little bit. And then dandelion root is really good for helping with your liver and your kidneys and all of that. It just feels like eating as basic as possible. You're welcome. Oh, thanks, KK. All right, Jennifer A., you're up. And then Vessel of Yahweh. I do the private reading over Zoom. Okay. You're welcome. Jen A., are you here? Or Vessel of Yahweh? Oops, I didn't take Rothka out of there. I already did answer hers. Yahweh, Vessel of Yahweh, if you want to go ahead and ask yours, that's fine. We can move it along. Oh, there she is. Okay, terrific. I sent question in PayPal. Did you get it? Let me check. You know what? I think you did. Sometimes I forget who sends what where. Come on now. I can't see the whole thing. Let me see. And that's probably, it's not letting me view it. Okay, hang on. Hybrid in-person, remote, and open to any location. I just can't see what it says. It says I'm currently in, and it has your city, but then or where you're, but I don't know what. And then it says ... So was there much after that? Okay. I feel like it's going to be through an app of some sort. What's and like a social media, but it's not. So I don't know what some of those are. I'm not familiar with them. So it's not LinkedIn though. What's weird is like I keep getting pulled towards TikTok, but I'm like they don't have a job searching option yet. But I feel like they may come out with something like that. So it's not through a friend. So it might be like an app or an agency that has an app, but I don't feel like it's through a friend or other people you know. Um, I have to tell you though. Okay, so there's something about. I don't know why March is significant. I don't know that it's around the job. It just feels like they're highlighting March. But I also feel like you're stuck. Like energetically, I feel like I'm not moving. And I don't necessarily be like, oh, that's because of the job. I feel like it's an energetic stuckness of like, I really, really want this, but yet at the same time, I'm not really visualizing it and imagining it and seeing it. It's like, it still feels like it's out there. Um, and I'm not saying this from like a place of like, oh, you're not like, because I've been there, like with things that I want to manifest in my life. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I really want this, but then I've literally never taken the time to sit down and like visualize it and really see it as a possibility. It's like it still feels like this far off dream, and that's where I feel like you're at energetically. And like October feels like it's not going to happen in October because I just don't like. There's no like. It's almost like I can't see October. I I'm like, because I'm going month by month. I feel like by the end of December is where you're really like, okay, now I can see this moving. Now I can actually see this change. Um, and I know it's like not what you want to hear because you're like, oh, I want to see it in 3 weeks. Like that's what the three, but it doesn't feel that way to me. So maybe it's more like 3 months. And it's not that the opportunity is not out there. It's like your energy is not quite calling it in yet. Okay. So what I want you to do is feel like, okay, so do this. This is like a coaching sort of thing, really more, right? It's like look at what does it mean to have that job to you? And look at if you don't have it, what does it mean to you? Like, right? So look at both ends of that. Like, what does it mean if I have it? What does it mean if I don't have it? Look at like, is there shame in there or is there a feeling of not being supportive? Like, look at that. And that's like maybe the area you need to work on affirming and healing, right? Doing the opposite of that. So it's like, and also like sometimes when I have shame around something, I'm like, why would I like when I really look at it and I'm like, that's so silly and absurd of me. Like I'd never ever shame anybody for being that way. Um, but like this Mel Robbins podcast was really helpful for me because it was like, oh, shame keeps you stuck. And sometimes it's like, oh, what is there fear in moving forward? Like, what if I have it all? What is that like? Could I handle that? Would I screw it up? Would it mean that like I've taken everything? Like, what does that mean for you if you have it all? And it can even be an outside influence that keeps us stuck, meaning not they're like, oh, but it's like, oh, if I'm really successful, how will this person take it? Maybe it's the fear of like that person and their judgment and their like, it's layered. It's not always just one thing. And then just it can also be like trusting. So like one affirmation I have my kids say that I say with well, my younger two, my older one doesn't want anything to do with all these affirmations. She thinks they're silly, but she'll figure it out one day. Um, but I always say like we always say everything's always working out in my favor. And like something came up the other day, and my daughter's like, oh, everything does always work out in my favor. I'm like, it does. We manifest that way. And she said like they were playing some game at school and she's like, I just visualized myself winning. And I did. So I was like, you manifested that. She's like, I did. So it's just like looking at the little wins along the way too. You saw the podcast. Okay, it's a great podcast and you can apply that stuff, right, to other things. It doesn't have to be just about organization and cleaning. But like look at the little wins along the way. I know my family will. There's this heart there that they put here. I can't always see it. Um, Let me just type something just to like bump you up. I know my family will miss me if I go again. Okay. So is there a way to have them support you? Like there's all kinds of stories we tell around success, right? Especially when we have a family and kids and things like that. So there's stories that I tell around my success. Well, if I'm really successful, I have this idea that it brings me away from my family. And then my kids are like, like they're missing out and I'm ruining everything. It's like, that's a thing that can keep you stuck. So that's a story there that can keep you stuck. But what if, couldn't the universe, if it's possible for anything, right? Couldn't the universe provide for you this opportunity and also help you find balance, and that everybody's on board, and that everybody wants, we all want each other to support and win and have goals. So like I told my 10-year-old, actually I told this to my 6-year-old. We were trying to, my one daughter wasn't sure if she wanted to be in safety patrol or do student council. And I was explaining to my one daughter, I was like, well, we're going to do this because we want to support her in her goal. I said, I want all of you guys to reach your goals, and I will do whatever I have to do to help support you in reaching your goal. So it's not about others making sacrifices, right? It's about us supporting each other to make our goal. So sometimes we have to do things to support each other rather than looking at it as a sacrifice. So maybe there's an affirmation in there that my family supports me in reaching my goals. My family loves seeing me win. It makes them happy when I'm happy. Like, right? That's not selfish. It makes me happy when my family members are happy. So why can't the reverse be true for you? So, but I feel like by December, there's this like breakthrough, and that's where it sort of hits and you're like, it takes off. But sometimes when people are like, oh, I want it to happen overnight. It's like, but if you are not like in the mindset to be ready for it, sometimes it doesn't come in the best way. And I'm telling you, I have manifested things like where I'm like, oh shoot, I manifested that accidentally. Like, okay. Vessel of Yahweh, you're here. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question? I'm leaving my narcissistic husband. Congratulations. Good for you. Yes, and I'm so excited for you. Get rid of the bum. I would like to know if there will be any challenges. Will, of course. We have embryos in storage, so we'll still have to communicate. It is deflating to feel stuck. And I have felt stuck for so long. So here's the other thing, like with building my business, I'm just going to be all real and honest. I would get stuck like coming on and doing videos because I was like, nobody really cares. Who wants to know this? Like, there's a million other people like me, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, I'm just gonna like, what if instead of looking at, and I would always get stuck because I'd be like, I have to post 1,000,000 times. So that, so like, and whenever something feels like I have to, I get like a little frozen. And then I was like, but what if I get to just share myself with people? Like, what if I just allow people to get to know me and not worry about all the stuff with it? So it like sort of reframed it for me to help me. And then also it's like, why should I carry shame if I'm not doing X, Y, and Z? Like, what is that? That's keeping me stuck. What if I just sort of celebrate it and have fun with it and just try, just one little thing every day, just try. It feels like I'm just getting the end of December. Feels like big, important. Sure, Top Flight, you can donate. Okay, now let me, so December feels important to me. So I don't know if that means that's where you get unstuck or if that's where you get the job and it sort of kind of clicks. Okay, so let's talk about Vessel Yahweh now. I want to focus on her. I'm leaving my narcissistic husband in October. I would like to know if there's any challenges we have embraced. Okay. Like I said, congratulations. Yay. And I said, of course there'll be challenges, right? Because they don't make things easy. But I do feel like you've like really gotten good at gray rocking. Yeah, like really good. And that is a contention point for him. I also feel like everybody sees through his baloney. Like, as much as he's trying to be like, oh, like he'll say like, oh, my lawyer's like all that kind of stuff, like to make you feel like he told on you to someone and they know what a terrible person you are. It's like everybody sees it. So it feels like going in with that energetic of knowing like everybody sees exactly who he is. I also feel like I feel like it's going to be okay. And I also feel like when you're like, we share embryos, I feel like there'll be a thing where you sign off on them. where he signs off on them. Of no longer having, like, there's a like, like almost giving away custody. Like he doesn't want anything to do with them. It feels like there will be stuff that comes out with that. But I do feel like there's a concession in order to get that. He signed off on him already. Is that it? I don't know what he has because I was just kind of rambling. But again, I feel like you have to make a concession, right? So it's like, I'm scared he may. Hang on, I just got to do this to get whatever is up there because it sits behind the stupid heart. Still get a lawyer. He will, but not for that. But I just heard you. Your lawyer is better. So they're saying like it's all about, I don't want to say manipulating, but it's all about sort of fluffing him up and like, oh, this is like so nice of you. Like stroking his ego as you're going through it because it makes the process easier. But it doesn't feel like, oh, this is going to be a 2-year process. It just feels like making it seem like you're the one who's like, oh, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like I heard a story once about one woman who was like, I had in the divorce, she had to agree to pay off all of her husband's student loans. And she was like, I will take that on just to get rid of him. And then ended up like where um, the student loan forgiveness came in and she got all of those loans forgiven. She didn't have to pay them at all. So it feels like something like that. Like you'll be like giving up something and then, or taking on some kind of burden, whatever, like just to get him out the door. And then it feels like somehow that gets relieved like that, like where it's like, it works in your favor. And I do feel like there'll be lawyers involved. And I do feel like he feels like, oh, but it feels like everybody sees exactly who he is. Because remember, right now is like a time of a lot of people getting divorced and the stories are flipping, right? You see this stuff even with Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner. I don't know if you know who they are, but like he tried to go out into the, like, kind of a trash her, go out into the media space and kind of trash her, like, oh, she's a terrible mom, she's partying all the time. And like literally it's not working for him. It's just not. Like everybody is like, yeah, well, we see what's going on. And if you think even 10 years ago, everybody's like, oh, that terrible woman. There's some ad that's going on YouTube and the guy's like, my wife even left me. And I'm like, dude, that's not a selling point anymore for people to feel sorry for you because people are waking up to the baloney, right? So yes, I do feel like lawyers will be involved, but I feel like it ends up working in your favor. I do feel like you have to sort of like give something, but it's like to be done with him and it's fine. Like the play has to be like, oh, you're getting that. And I really wanted it to him. So he feels like he's winning, but really it's like, thank you, Jesus. See you later. I'm done with you. Wash my hands clean. That's that. And it doesn't feel like it feels like it actually ends up being a lot smoother process, but more so because you're no longer willing to be emotionally manipulated by him and you see all of it for what it is. So let me just check PayPal really quick. And then you're very welcome. Gia, you're up. Let me see. I've got a couple people that said they paid. Okay, hang on. Somebody said there was MC. Now I know. I just need to see. Nella, what are your initials? I have an HK. I don't know who that is. MC, I'm trying to find your screen name. H. Okay, so I've got you. I've got MC. I don't know. I don't remember what your screen name was, so that's what you're going to be under when it's your turn. Okay. Oh, Top Flight. There you are. Okay. Perfect. Okay, Gia, what's your question, dear? And then I'm after Nella. I'm going to close the list just because it's late. Well, not late, but it's dinner time for us and getting ready for school time and all that stuff. Oh, they don't have school tomorrow. Whatever, it's dinner time. Gia, are you here? If Gia's not here, if Ashvir wants to go, there might be a little bit of delay here. So Gia or Ashvir, you guys are up. Hello, anyone, anyone? Ali, do you want to ask? Is anyone here? Did you guys leave? All right, if you're on the list, ask your question. Let's just make it quick. Let's roll through some of these. I don't want to sit here for minutes upon minutes. I get that we're respecting. Right? Okay. You know what? Since you're oh, there you are, Gia. What's coming up for you? Okay. I actually, it's interesting. I know there was Top Flight right before you, but I saw a plane and I saw like a vacation on the horizon. And it feels like it's so I saw a smaller plane. So I don't know if that means that it's a short flight for you, or if it means you have to take a smaller plane to get to that area. It's like a connecting flight where it's a smaller plane. Um, Have you been working on gut healing, gut health? Because I feel like there's a change in that. I do feel like still like a little not quite right, but I feel like better. They're also wanting to talk about breathing more, just making sure you're really focusing on doing breath work throughout the day. I'm not talking about major meditations or doing like even the Wim Hof, just like we all breathe enough to sustain life, but to like just help relax all of these muscles and tightness. I also feel like maybe even traveling for work somehow. I'm working on trying to get healthier and fit. And yes, I've been trying to meditate. Okay. Um, I feel like there might be business travel in for you. So even if you don't travel for business, it's like there's something business related and travel. And I would say this is in the next 4 months. This doesn't even feel that far out. And when I see something on the horizon that feels like pretty close by, have you planned a trip or vacation? So there might be even just a weekend getaway to the beach or something. So that might be coming up and it just be last minute, but that's there. So I'm just going to leave it. I don't know if it's right or not, but you have been thinking about taking a trip to Canada with my kids. Is there water nearby where you're going? Um, okay. Everything will go smoothly. Okay. I'll leave you with that. Ashvir, what's your questions? You're welcome, Gia. Ashvir, are you still here? Is, if, oh, there you are. Okay, when am I getting my permanent residency? Um, so the first thing I heard was 2 years, which I know that's like, it seems like a really long time, but there's something that happens in 2 months. So I don't know if the process takes like a really long time. You're starting the process this week. Okay. So it's like maybe the first part in 2 months you get like, the first part of it, right? But it feels like within 2 years, like, so I don't know what they do there, but like I think in the United States, like, you have to like you go in front of a judge and get sworn in or something like that, right? So it just feels like it's like a 2 year, it's a long process. It's not just a one thing. So it feels like 2 years, and then but there's something that happens in 2 months that sort of takes you on that. It's like the official beginning of that journey, if that makes sense. I don't know if that sounds about right for timing wise. I also want to say it's not because you're doing anything wrong. So if you get in your head like, oh, I'm doing this wrong, I've messed this up, you're doing everything right. It just feels like it's just a long process. It's like bureaucracy and red tape. I felt 2 years. So it could mean like not in 2024, but in 2025. And again, it's not because you're doing anything wrong or, the requirements aren't there. It just feels like it's bureaucracy. So like maybe there's classes you have to take. Maybe there's like, oh, a certain waiting periods once you've applied and all of that. Yeah. So which is what I said initially. I said in 2 months something is going to happen, but I heard 2 years, but it doesn't necessarily mean like exactly 2 years from today. It could be like in 18 minutes, like it could be it's like an 18-month thing. So then like it's into into 2025. Again, it's not, I know it sounds like a long time, but it feels like the process, there's bureaucracy, and it's not anything you're doing wrong. And I can be wrong. So let's go with that one too. It's I can be wrong. So what might happen is in 2 months from now is when you get the invitation, and then it starts a process of like you have to have meetings, you have to do all these things, right? Like I don't know exactly, but that's just what I'm getting. So I can't give you anything else, and I don't feel like it's a year. Because when I first read your question, that's what I heard immediately, and I tend to stick with my initial what I get. Okay, what's your second question? Do you see you settling down next year with someone? Um, I see a relationship in like 13 months, but I don't know if it's settling down, right? I don't think you'll be married before you have your permanent residency. But I just feel like the next like 13 months is what I got. Wait, what's the lane question? I'm confused. Can you make it one like not so choppy thing? It's like it's pieced out where it's I'm this is what I'm reading and I'm confused. So it's like, do you see anything coming down in next year with someone or anything new coming up for me on not this sorry Elaine question? Found a good man. I don't know what the Elaine question part is, and I don't know what the I don't I'm confused. So I feel like in 13 months there's a relationship where you'll have like a serious relationship. That doesn't mean you meet them in 13 months, but it just feels like in 13 months I felt like I'm in a monogamous committed relationship. I don't know that that means marriage. It doesn't feel that way. Marriage feels after a permanent residency. Will your friend Elaine meet a good man? Um, oh, sometimes the guys are just, I will say, cheeky. Um, because I heard good man is relative. Um, and no offense to any of the men here. It is not me. Um, well, I'm leaning towards 6 months for her. I don't know that this is the end all be all person, but I feel like it's an important relationship. Okay. All right. Allie, you're up. And then Top Flight, and then Nella, and then I am done. What insights can you provide about my relationship with Stefan and Donza, including factors at play, outcomes, timeline of reconciliation? Will he ultimately take a stand for us to be reunited? Um, all right, so you're not gonna like what I have to hear. I don't feel like he will, honestly. I don't feel like he feels very insecure to me. He feels very much like a little kind of like a ping pong. Like he just not that he's like a victim in a ping pong between like getting passed back and forth kind of thing like that, but like an inability to be accountable for his own actions and to feel confident enough in himself that like it's okay if someone's upset with him because he knows what this is right. It literally feels like finagling and maneuvering and manipulating in order to be still seen as the good guy all the time and not as like upsetting other people. And it I don't know if he has a sister, but it's a feeling of a sister being a problem, um, like creating issues. Okay. Is she a younger mom? So I don't feel like he's going to be like, oh, I woke up. I actually feel like what's going to happen is you're going to get healed enough through this and like far enough out of it. You're like, F off. I'm totally done with him. I don't feel like, I feel like you'll maintain a cordial relationship, but I don't feel like it'll be like one you really want in the end anyway. And honestly, the feeling I got at the end of it was like, you're kind of better off without him. Like, he's, uh, he's a lot. He's a lot of headache. Let me see how quickly I get through these, Kay. Just because I've been on for 2 hours now and I still have a couple questions left. Actually, can I say no? Is that okay? I want to say no. I think I want to say no. Just I've been on for a while. I don't see reconciliation. I don't feel like when you're like, will he ever realize and regret his actions? No. Because I think in his mind, he twists everything to make it to justify his behavior so that he doesn't have to be accountable. Like I was literally went, even on his deathbed, they're like, he's not the type of person who will take accountability for his behavior. That's going to, thank you, Kay, for understanding, who will own that, like, oh, I fucked up. Like he's not. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always like, well, it's circumstantial. But he will not take accountability. And the part where I know you're at right now is that part of like, but I'm worth it. Like you know what it's like, why can't he see? It's like, he literally cannot see your value and your worth. So you have to. And when you get far enough out, it's like in like 6 months, you'll be a little bit further out of it and you'll be like, ugh. Like there's so many F words I want to drop. I'm just trying to like, but it will literally be like, why did I waste my time like heartaching after this man who is incapable and not worth it? He's just like, you will see how much better you deserve and are worth holding out for that. And I actually do feel like you eventually will. And like, it'll be like 2 or 3 years before you're really like ready to date, like ready for a real. And I know that sounds like a really long time, but it feels like needing a lot of space to heal from this relationship. And I do feel like it'll be somebody better for sure that will show you love and affection. And it's not because the universe just brought it to me and it just happened. It's like, you're going to be doing the work to heal from this relationship because you're going to be like, how did I get into this? How did I not see it? And like really looking at how you were so accepting of a connection like this. And it will be somebody better, somebody kinder, somebody who is able to express his emotion and his love. And I've said this for a while now that like men are sort of going through this like awakening, right? Where they're starting to realize how they're a part of patriarchy too, and unhealthy relationships, and like learning to connect with their own emotions and express them. And it's like, it's kind of happens, you know, it's not like, oh, it's done. It's kind of an over time thing. So I believe within, especially in 3 years, relationships are going to be much healthier. But yeah. Okay. All right. Top Flight, you're up. And then Nella. It seems like a lot. I believe that you loved him. Absolutely. I don't doubt that for 1 minute. But sometimes we really have to just love ourselves. And 2 to 3 times seems like a long time, but I honestly feel like when you start to really unravel from this, it's looking at learning to trust yourself again, to see red flags and not fall into a relationship like this. It doesn't mean you won't date at all. It just means you're going to go through this trial period of learning to date and learning to see the red flags and learning to trust your intuition and trust yourself. And then that's when that like kind of comes through. Is like the 2 to 3 years is when somebody kind of comes through that you are safe to be vulnerable with. All right, let's go Top Flight. Okay. What should I know in regards to my dealings and relationship with Stephanie? We are not together. She's my child's mom and she's in a relationship. It's interesting. I feel like she's kind of about herself. Um, I really feel like with her, everything should be in writing and like no joking around at all with her. Like I feel like it should just be about your kid, and because I feel like she can tend to I feel like she reads into things when she shouldn't. Um and I just feel like things need to be in writing to be like, no, we talked about this. Like it has to be. So I don't know if it's like usually just texting her to get to connect with things. Um, I also feel like remembering that as you're dealing with her, that your most important reason for having to deal with her is your kid. So it's sort of like putting a little bit of your ego aside and realizing um, like whatever the outcome is, I just know that it has to be best for my kid. Um, I do feel like she will manipulate things a little bit, honestly. Like it feels like I feel like I see somebody who's kind of about themselves. Like I can't explain it. It doesn't feel like, oh, she's a narcissist, but it just feels like, and maybe that's a response to something. I don't know, but it just feels like she's in her own world. And I feel like maybe she kind of uses your child as a pawn between the two of you. Does that any of that make sense at all? Like she can kind of emotionally manipulate your child. So it feels like dealing with that can be really frustrating because you want to be like, you be, but it feels like it's really important to remember like when you want to have that emotional response, just to like zip it, because the child is the most important. And I do feel like your child will see who she is and see the dynamics and like understand it. Like 12 and 16 are popping up for me. And I also feel like you'll get more time, and it'll be easier if you make it like, oh, hey, I knew you wanted to go do this and go out of town or whatever. I'll take them for the weekend or whatever. Like it just feels like making it so it's like you're, but it feels really important to not, and not that I think you do this, but it's like to not even react about her behavior in front of your child. And it doesn't mean don't validate what they're experiencing, right? So if they are like, oh, mom did this and it was really frustrating, be like, just say that must be frustrating. You don't have to be like, oh, I know. It's like, that must be really frustrating. I can see that that would be hard. I started joking with her again, but I was hesitant or making them. Yeah, it feels like I don't feel like she's somebody you can joke around with a lot because I feel like she will read into it more than you should. She's 11 right now. Okay, so at like 12 is important and 16 is important. Um, but it feels like with your daughter, just when she complains or says, I had this problem, just validate it. Like, meaning, like, that is really frustrating. That would be really hard because it can't be like, oh, I could see your mom doing that. Like, because I feel like your ex would use that against you. And it also can be very confusing then too for your child. Like she'll come to her own conclusion. She'll see exactly who she is. And I don't feel like she's evil. I just feel like She's unhealed. Your ex is unhealed. I do feel like your daughter has a sense of relief being around you because it just feels less demanding energetically and emotionally. And I don't feel like you have to tiptoe around. It just feels like it's easier to be like you can be friendly without. I feel like your jokes she doesn't always take the right way. Like she's always reading way into them more than they should be. So again, it doesn't feel like tiptoeing. It just feels like texting works really well. I also feel like she complains a lot. Got so much stuff to do. Well, um, but it doesn't feel like a magic like don't talk. It just feels like texting would make it easy and then there's clarity, especially let me put it this way, especially when you're planning something, planning the exchange, planning what dates you're going to have, planning like with your, when you're going to have your daughter, that kind of stuff. Or if you want extra time, or if there's a vacation kind of thing, something like that, it feels like have it all a text or email. Um, it just feels like to be like, oh no, remember you said this, or like to respond back to something like where you reply to it and it highlights it and brings it back. So she can't say she forgot or you never said that. I do feel like there's a part of her that's having so this isn't like an intentional, I forgot or you never said that. There's like hormonal shift she's going through where she is a bit more forgetful. So I don't think all of it's intentional. Puts her in the dealings between us when she doesn't need to. Right. So like it's even like um if like it's like well if you're making plans to go on a vacation or whatever, it's like don't ask your kid first, right? Um, and I feel like she'd be like, well, I asked her and she said she was fine. It's like, then I'm the other adult here. So it just feels like everything should be in writing. It's really important. And again, I don't feel like she's the worst that could be, but she just does stuff and I don't think she realizes how it can be kind of damaging and also like not effective. Like if she wants to know when you're going to be there to you up instead of being like, oh, I don't know. It just feels like somehow she's putting more responsibility on your child than your child needs. But I feel like once your child is older, then that's when I don't know. It just should be more co-parenting instead of like the in-between thing. And also speaking from somebody who grew up where my parents put me in between all the time instead of like my dad when I went to live with my dad actually gave me the papers to give to my mom to sign the legal papers. Like that's super fucked up instead of being a grown up and dealing with her directly. My parents aren't very grown up. Right. Um, so it's saving you energetically to like not, if you're texting, she's not going to send a whole long list of complaints. She's just not. So, okay. Nella, what's your question? Do you see things being official with Michael? Like, I hope that was helpful. um, like us getting married or getting a home together, I'm totally ready to go. I actually see you moving in together before getting married. He's reticent to get married. Michael's reticent to get married. And I feel like it's just his past and growing up in a home that wasn't great. Like, I feel like he's a bit pessimistic on marriage, to be honest. I don't feel like he's like, I gotta get married. I feel like he's sort of, so I feel like moving in together before marriage. You're welcome. Top plate. So I'm going to caution you on the marriage thing. When he says, if he's like, it was horrible for him, I want you to really listen. What's he complaining about? If he's like, she was this, and this, and he's not owning any of his responsibility, trust me, just move in first. Don't get married. You'll get to see who he really is. If he doesn't take accountability and all he's doing is complaining about how horrible she was, there's something more to it that you should be spidey sensing. You know what I mean? But so I see moving in before marriage. Okay. All right. I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Me. And I hope you all have he says they weren't ready. Okay. I just can't shake this feeling off after what you shared with me. And thank you but will his family drag the divorce out? I don't think they will. No. And it's okay to have those worries, Allie, and concerns. I think that's natural, especially when you marry somebody like that. It's hard. Have a great week, Julia. Oh my God, you're up late. Okay. You're welcome, Nella. All right, everybody, have a great week. I will see you next week.